You so much, Chair DeGette, and thank you to our witnesses for being here. I'm hearing about all these trails and roads, and I want to go everywhere that we've heard about today and hike. The Route 66 is something that we're very proud of that goes through New Mexico, and of course, all of us are hearing the song right now in our ears every time you hear that the Route 66. But we've heard today that people have traveled the trails through New Mexico's and other states' mountains and wilderness for centuries. We've been connecting communities, trade, and people. And I think when we hike the trails today, we connect ourselves to the quiet beauty and strength of our forests, as well as the stories of the peoples who traveled before us. So with regards to the Continental Divide Trail, I co-sponsored that bill, co-led that bill with our Chair Nagoose, and I really believe that a completed Continental Divide Trail could further highlight, honor, and preserve the unique cultures and environments here in New Mexico and in Colorado. And I think it's also important to think about how we're doing it in a way that is respectful of local landowners and land uses. And the bill does that. It requires the National Park Service and the Forest Service to only acquire land from willing sellers. It encourages them to maintain existing partnerships in the development, maintenance, and management of the trail. And my question was for Ms. Martinez. Your testimony talked about the many municipalities and local organizations that you work with on the ground. Could you describe what some of those partnerships are in New Mexico and in northern New Mexico?
Absolutely. And one of the largest stretches and gaps is actually in central New Mexico between Pie Town and Grants, New Mexico. And it's a 60-mile stretch of highway or dirt roads, actually. It's one of the most dangerous sections next to Muddy Pass in Colorado, in northern Colorado. But there, we've worked with partners like Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation because connecting the trail there also provides better access for hunters into larger portions of the national forest. It provides an incredible habitat for turkey and other kinds of wildlife that they could then, again, they prosper, but also people can access that, not just for the CDT. But then between Pie Town and Grants, I think the communities are external partners like Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, the tribes of Pueblo of Acoma, to these small little communities, chambers of commerces. We've seen small little community groups actually form to maintain the CDT and the Cibola Trail Alliance and Grants. And then I will just happen to mention too, in Pie Town, we actually connect to Route 66, and Pie Town is actually a community of 35 people and 4 pie cafes. And so those connections are with local citizens and those pie cafes, for example, and how they support and provide food, restaurants, and everything else for those people coming through the CDT. But the range is everything from local, obviously restaurant owners, hotel owners who provide discounts. It's chambers, it's community groups, it's bike shops, it's all the different things. And what we're finding is people are understanding that many of these communities are transitional economies, right? They're moving from mining, they're moving from logging into an outdoor recreation economy. And they see the benefit of a small thing like the CDT, which is a part of a larger asset of things. And it brings together school groups, church groups. I mean, it cuts across all the different fabrics of the communities there that are very tight knit. And so the partnerships are unending.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on another partnership that I think is important, that especially important up north. I recently introduced the Land Grant Mercedes Traditional Use Recognition and Consultation Act, and that's intended to provide greater consultation between the federal agencies and the governing bodies and community users of the land grants in New Mexico, which, as we know, are also historic. Do you think there's any further steps that we need to do to ensure that the trails completion is done with respect and that it doesn't impact those traditional land uses in a negative way?
Absolutely. And I think part of the connection of the CDT is that it ensures clean water for those Ezequiel communities. And it also recognizes these long histories, I mean, multi-generational. And I think that's the beauty of the trail, is that we're trying to bring everyone together and find these common grounds and build relationships that are very different than have happened before in the past. So yeah, I think it not just by protecting the actual watershed, but then by also just minimizing the impacts to everyone around the divide that have had these traditional connections.
Right. And I think it'll be very important to make sure that we provide that kind of education to those who are using the trails so they'll have both the history and then the needed respect for the Mercedes, the Acequias, and the local communities. Truly appreciate your testimony, and I yield back. Thank you.
Thank the gentlelady.